Welcome to the Wknd Warriors Fishing Podcast, presented by 13 Fishing Canada. Make your own luck. We're here to scratch that angling itch and talk everything fishing. Join us as we sit down with special guests from across the industry. Now, here's your hosts, Logan Lewis
and Jesse Cadrain.
(2026), the Wknd Warriors Fishing Podcast has arrived with episode 108 here. It's been a hot minute since about early December, the last time we had an episode. Things get busy over Christmas, and then we were working on some stuff behind the scenes here in early January. But myself and Jesse could not be happier to be back. Speaking of Jesse, how's it going?
It's going good, Logan. I'm happy to have survived my journey home in this crazy blizzard storm that half of Saskatchewan just had. And my own bed felt pretty good last night. I had like a 6-hour drive home, 6.5, where it should have only taken me 4 hours or 4.5. So doing well, getting out on the ice a few times here and there, not having crazy success yet, but it's every time I go out, it seems to get a little better. So looking forward to what February and March can bring.
Yeah, no doubt. This episode, Jesse surprised me by loading into the studio well out on Last Mountain. If you want to hear more about his trip, we'll be talking about that in the outro here at the end of this episode. But it was kind of fitting because episode 108 here is with returning guest TJ Erickson, and we're talking all things ice camping, for the basics of why you'd even want to do it for the people that haven't tried it yet, kind of convince you on that, and then go into some of the basic stuff that you need, maybe some of the stuff that you might not necessarily need, but it makes life a little easier. And then one of the biggest things, you're going all this work to set up. We talk about where you want to set up as well. So that's what's going on in this episode here. So yeah, like I said, Jesse did that from his pop-up tent out on Last Mountain. So if you want to hear more about that trip, we'll be talking about it in the outro. But like I said, it's been a hot minute here. So of course we want to mention our sponsors. We've got 13 Fishing Canada, the presenting sponsor of the podcast. Me and Jesse both have been ripping the new Maven ice auger. And when I say ripping, I mean literally. I feel like I'm having to pull it up almost. This thing wants to go so fast. So
it's a beast.
Yeah, it's been a treat. Jesse's in the 10-inch. I'm in the 8-inch. I'll maybe pick up a 10-inch flight or something like that if that's a thing here in the future. But yeah, it's been sweet. We had that episode earlier there, or not earlier, I guess. What was that? A month and a half, 2 months ago, maybe. Talking about all the new products from Rapala VMC. One of those being the Maven ice auger, and I hadn't really got to use it up to that point yet. Just kind of waiting on ice and when I could get out, and then been putting it through the ringer. Like the one day we were trying to find I'll just say a certain species of fish. We were drilling all around the lake, and I probably drilled, I would think, at least 70, 80 holes that day, and I was still on the first battery. So that was nice, and it was not a workout drilling the holes with it. So yeah, that's been a treat for sure. I don't know if you have anything else to add to 13 Fishing there.
The new, I don't know if they're new combos, but the combos we ordered together, the Wknd Pro setups. I got the 38 medium light and a 38 medium, and I'm super impressed with them. The 38 medium light fits beautifully in a jaw jacker, like right on the max setting, but it worked really good for some stock trout here about a month or 2-3 weeks ago, and then jig and walleye and jig and pike. I'm very impressed with how they've handled the few fish that I have caught, but looking forward to getting them bent more and really testing them out.
Yeah, and if anyone saw Jesse's story, they survived a trip out of the back of a trailer on the way to the lake. So
which was also a Rapala rod storage tube. So props to that thing, having that fly out of the box of the truck at 80 or 100 kilometers an hour down the highway, and minimal damage, just a few broken tackle trays and some cracked tubes, and that was it. Everything else survived. So super lucky there.
No, that's nice. You want to protect your investments there. And so you can head over to the Rapala Canada website, use the code Wknd Warriors. That's WKND Warriors. Save yourself 15% off the entire website, all the brands. If you want to pick up the new auger, 15% off right there. Save the tax and some. And that kind of covers it for 13 Fishing. Next up, as always, the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation. I'm recording this. We're recording this Wednesday, the 21st. I'll be going to the Moose Jaw Wildlife Federation Awards and Volunteer Appreciation Dinner here on the 22nd. So I'm looking forward to that. Seeing what was submitted throughout the year. It's always fun seeing people get awards. Of course, the one award I've won, I wasn't able to make it to that dinner, so that kind of sucked. But it's always fun being there, hanging out with some like-minded people, and getting to see the awards. But head over to the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation website, get your membership for your local branch. Lots of great benefits. I always mention the magazine, access to land. You need the membership for that. I think lots of people don't realize that, is you're technically supposed to have your Sask Wildlife membership to access those wildlife lands.
Yep.
It's great community to be a part of. Jesse is as well, and I don't know if you have anything to add there.
One thing is, if you do happen to catch a fish of a lifetime or harvest a big deer that goes and wins is up, for a provincial trophy or an award, like the biggest deer in the province, biggest whitetail, biggest mule deer, you don't get the fame and glory if you're not a member of the Wildlife Federation. You do get mentioned, but you're not eligible for the award, and it's not the same. So, I mean, for the $25 to get your membership, and on that off chance that you could harvest the trophy of a lifetime, it's worth it to have your name in the books and go to the banquet. You get invited to it, and it's a really good time. So.
Yeah, and if you are fishing, the Master Angler program is a great program as well. I know they were doing some maintenance on it this past week, but by the time this episode's up, I think it should be up and running again. And get entering those fish. Me and Jesse right now are maybe on a perch competition to see who can catch a bigger perch first for the Master Angler. So we'll see if that happens. I don't know if Jesse's actually purposely targeting them, but that's what we might be going after here, because we've already got the pike down. Have you entered a walleye yet?
No. The only fish I've entered are stock trout.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
well, you got me beat there.
And I entered a pike. That pike I caught in March Madness tournament on Tobin with scoobs. I entered that as well because I was okay. Might as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. So head over to the Saskatchewan Wildlife Federation, get your membership, and enter those big fish you're catching on the Master Angler program. We've got one more new this year, coming in hot. It's a place me and Jesse know very well. This will be the last one before we head into the episode here with TJ Erickson. But we have Lac Lamart Adventures coming on as a sponsor this year. Really pumped about that. Like I said, place pretty special to both of us. Place that Jesse's still up there guiding, working in the summers. And so wanted to give them a huge shout out. I know we've had some people in the past when we've talked about the lodge or Lac Lamart in general, definitely interested in it. So if you are thinking about a trip, they offer lots of different trips. Maybe Jesse, you'd be better to speak on kind of some of the different options that are available to people if they are interested in heading up there.
Yeah, I mean, most of the trips are 6-day trips. So you'd fly in, spend 6 days of fishing. On your 7th day, you fly out. You got to get yourself to Yellowknife, to and from Yellowknife. After that, they take care of everything. There is a few availabilities throughout the year for 3-day trips, but it just kind of has to line up if there's enough interest. But it is definitely something easier for people to manage with a busy work schedule. Like a lot of people, unless you're retired or have a ton of money or something, can't afford 6 days, but 3 days is an option as well. I would email Mr. Zach Brown, the fishing guide, not the singer, to take care of that. But we've talked about it quite a bit on this podcast. It's an amazing fishery with great people, and that's all the reason to go up there and check it out firsthand.
Or just to see Jesse.
Or just come see me, or Larry or Moose.
Yeah. Lots to see there. And like Jesse mentioned there with those couple day trips, I mean, the fishing there is incredible. You're going to get to see some beautiful area too. Oh, he has something to add here.
As of now, or as of like 2 days ago, there is a prime spot available at Lac Lamart from June 14th to June 20th. So opening week of the lodge, which is like a very highly sought after week trip due to the spring pike fishing. So if anyone has dreamed of catching 50 pike over 40 inches in 6 days, that's the week you want to be there for, and you can book that and make that a reality. So
yeah, no, that's good to mention there. That's kind of the hardcore time, right? Like those are usually always booked.
Yeah.
So it must have been a cancellation or something. And
that's right. Yeah, just the last minute cancellation that we're looking to fill. So
yeah, no, that's good to mention that because that's a hard time to get into. I know it gets booked year after year by lots of times the same people because they love it that much. So yeah, good.
Get your
good
foot in the door there.
Yeah, so if you're interested in that and you're looking, because Jesse didn't say Zach's email, he just said get a hold of Zach. You could also look up Black Lamart Adventures on
nwtfishing.com.
Yeah, what a great web address to get, hey?
Yeah, they locked it down for all of NWT.
Yeah, no, so that's good. Check out Black Lamart Adventures. If you have any questions, obviously you can email the pod, message us on socials, and we're more than happy to tell you about it. And I'm sure going forward, we'll have lots of stories to tell about the about the lodge as it is. So yeah, big thanks to Black Lamart Adventures for coming on as a sponsor this year. So it's kind of some rambling there. We are very happy to be back and rolling here in 2026.
Yeah.
A little tease. The ball is rolling on the March Madness Classic for 2026. There'll be more to come there. Put a little teaser out on socials. But that's all I'm going to say about that for now. If you are interested in sponsoring, shoot me a message. All sponsorships welcome, no matter how big or small you want to make that prize. We're just trying to build that prize pool as much as possible to make it the most fun for all the participants. So that's all we've got here in the intro. Hope you enjoy episode 108, All Things Ice Camping with TJ Erickson. Well, sitting down once again with TJ Erickson. We were talking about it third, maybe fourth time that you've been on here. We've covered some walleye topics before. We are wearing matching hats tonight for anyone that is watching. This was not planned, and we will not be talking about Bourbet. We just know that we both love Bourbet, so it just worked out this way. But we will be covering some winter ice camping, just kind of everything ice camping. So I guess before we get into that, TJ, brief explanation of who you are for those that haven't listened to any of your episodes yet. And definitely check TJ out on YouTube. Tons of informative videos there, but kind of give some of the newer people a brief explanation of who you are.
You bet. Yeah, no, thanks for having me back on. It's always fun. Good talking fishing. It's always dangerous too, because when you get a bunch of guys together that like to talk fishing, it can get a lot real quick.
Rattle on.
Oh yeah. So no, I appreciate having me on. No, like you said, TJ Erickson. I am in kind of north central Minnesota. I started out probably, 10 years ago into doing some guiding. I was a teacher and then I was guiding. Started out doing some content, actually YouTube to promote my guide service. So that's how the whole YouTube thing got started. And then that started taking off and I was like, oh, I can do this to make some money too. Like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then got too busy where it's like, okay, I can't do both guiding and this YouTube stuff in the summertime. So dropped guiding a couple of years ago. So I've just been doing YouTube in the summer and then teaching during the school year. And yeah, fingers crossed it can just keep rolling like it has been and see where it goes from there. But that's kind of what I've got going on. I do a lot of, like you said, educational. I'm a big time walleye angler. I do love me some Bourbet too. Don't get me wrong. I love multi-species, but I've noticed that definitely walleye is my passion. That's what I am most knowledgeable about. And being a teacher, that just naturally comes out in my videos. I want to teach people what to do because up in this part of the area, this part of the world here, north central Minnesota, on these smaller, like deep, clear lakes where it's all stocked fish, it can not always be easy to find them and catch them. And so through my guiding years of like, man, I need to figure out how to catch these fish, just learned a lot and wanted to share that with people. And it's so fun now, like having people reach out, be like, oh my gosh, I just watched this video. You talking walleye locations or whatever it is. And, we went out and we tried it last weekend. We caught way more fish than we ever have. And I was like, that is what it's all about right there. Like, so awesome to see, like, because you want to get people into fishing. And if you're not out catching fish, that can sometimes put a hindrance on that. So being able to help educate, but mostly, like I said, walleye stuff. I do some Bourbet as well. And some crappie stuff, a little bit of, and then some lake trout in the winter. But I like to started to do a little, actually, like kind of some camping, like even summertime, just kind of adventure type stuff too. But the bulk of what I do is heavy on walleye educational content. So yeah, it's been a fun ride here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming down the chute. It's like every time I turn around, I feel like something's changing, which is kind of fun too.
For sure. And it wouldn't be me hosting a podcast without a tangent right off the start. How do you get such clear video, like underwater footage? Like some of the Bourbet footage that I've seen on your Instagram is insane.
Tell us your secret.
So sick. So that a lot of it is lake dependent. We have a few lakes in the area that are just like so clear. So obviously that's a good first place to start. But then I do bring out the bigger aqua view. It's the HD7i is what I use. Okay. It's it's the one with the larger camera. And so I use my I have an aqua view. What is it? The 822 HD is what it is. That's the one I use a lot, but it's just not quite as clear of a picture. It's still like the 1080, but that other one I've just found to have such a better picture. So when I know I'm going to be like not moving and I know I'm going to be getting some sick underwater eats, that is the one I bring out. And I should have another Bourbet video coming out actually here soon with some really cool underwater footage. Just some
sweet.
And
look forward to that.
Some of the lakes, they're so pretty too. Like growing up on Lake of the Woods, the Bourbet we were catching there just, so pale. But some of the lakes around here have some just gorgeous Bourbet. They're just so colored up and so cool. They're not always the size maybe, but man, they're just cool. And I'm a sucker for underwater footage and anything. I just love seeing fish eat on the camera. And so yeah, that is that one. Find a nice clear lake, which we have a lot of in this area. A lot of our lakes are just super clear, which makes it hard for walleyes a lot of times. But and then I bring out the big underwater camera too.
Right. And I guess I could probably add to that. I've noticed lots of times when people are running camera, they're directly on bottom looking 90 degrees, right? Lots of yours seem to be hanging more at that like 45 degree above.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. I try to put on a downward angle, mostly just to like maybe not spook them quite as much, but although the camera attracts the Bourbet more than anything half the time, they come up and eat that first and then they'll circle around for your baits.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm fishing some steep break. So like your steep break, you're not gonna be able to see this if you're listening on the audio version, but like your steep break is here. So then it's kind of like pointing perpendicular almost to the break line, just to get both baits in. And I will do it, parallel too. But I mostly have started doing that for walleyes because walleyes can be so hard to get on the underwater camera around here. They're so spooky. So anytime I can get it a little bit more away, I try to do that. But
so you would hang your underwater camera on the deep end and have it pointing down, looking at your baits on that slope, correct?
Yeah. So then I can see both. Yeah, see them both pounding bottom, and like, just get them both in the frame like that. And it's
that makes sense.
Finding the right distance. And it works out pretty slick on some of those steep breaks like that. So that's just finding the right lake is half it, is getting good clear lake and then having a camera with a little bit bigger one.
For sure. Well, that's tangent number one for me.
Yeah,
about
that's
episode
not
108
even
here.
Not even what we're here to talk about.
No.
Good little bonus.
But I just had to mention that. I remember seeing one of your posts a couple weeks ago. I'm like, how it like this is like I was wondering if it's like a GoPro setup or something under the water that you're running.
Because I know guys do that.
Yeah, but wasn't.
And actually, depending on which one it was, one of those clips, that one was actually on the 822, the smaller handheld one. So that one was on that one, I think it was the Bourbet came and swung and missed a few times. Right. And I was just kind of like playing with them, but yeah, that was cool. So that one was on the smaller one actually.
Okay. Yeah. No. And I run the smaller Markham as well, so I know what you're talking there. It's nice and mobile, but when you do get dug in and you can set up with that bigger camera, that definitely makes a difference there. But no, that's good. Like I said, first tangent there, but we'll get back to the ice camping here for the people that have tuned in for that. Maybe we'll just go around the circle here. We'll start with you, TJ, and then go to Jesse. But some people listening that haven't done it yet are probably wondering who would want to ice camp, right? Like, why is this even a thing? Why are you going out? Lots of times me and Jesse end up out there in minus 25, minus 30, and kind of people would be asking why.
Times to go.
Yeah. Never fails.
Yeah. So I guess kind of kicking things off here, why ice camping?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I think that, that's a very personal question, depending on everybody's got different reasons. But for me, there's a handful of reasons. One is because I can get to areas that I will not get to otherwise. and I can just like stay out there. There might not be a lodge, there might not be a resort, there might be an hour snowmobile ride to get back there. And so I want to get back there. And, we've done some like backcountry lake trout stuff where we can now camp. And now we're having a significant more amount of fishing time because we're already out there instead of up and down and hauling and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the reasons. Two is like cost, depending on where you're at, you may or may not have access to any decent lodges or resorts. And, for being a teacher for a lot of it, like, I'm sure you guys are aware, teachers aren't like rolling in crazy dough all the time. And it's sometimes just a cost saving thing too, of like, okay, I could go buy $15 of the propane and have what I already have, and I'll be set for the weekend, versus spending a few $100s a night or whatever it might be at, some place. And don't get me wrong, I still love, so nice being able to like go back to a lodge or resort and like shower and cook and do those things too. There's a time and place for everything, but that is another thing. And the other, probably the third reason is, a lot of times with my stage of life right now, there's just so little time to actually get out. And so when I want to get out, I want to capitalize on as much fishing as possible. And sometimes that after dark overnight bite can be super good. And so when you're packing up and leaving, especially for big fish, you might be missing out on some really good bites. And being able to, okay, if I have a weekend out, okay, instead of like taking hours to go back and forth from home or whatever, like if I can spend all of that time with a line in the water, my chance of catching a good fish is significantly higher. So those are probably a few of the main reasons that I do. So yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. Hopefully I didn't cover all of them.
No, Jesse will have
job
some
there.
I did want to mention, because we haven't done our intro and out yet. I don't know if we'll mention it in there, but Jesse is currently out on Last Mountain. Surprised me with that. He has got a jaw jacker behind him. He's sitting in 27 feet of water and messaged me for his coordinates because it sounds like it's going okay. But,
I sent Logan a pin. He'll hold it for $10 per request.
Maybe.
I didn't even get an update. Have you been catching?
I managed a 28-inch walleye on a 6-inch Cisco suspended, and then a 27-inch walleye on this jaw jacker here. So right at dusk, like right as the sun went down. So, I mean, good segue into why you would want to stay out on the ice to capitalize on those prime bite windows.
Yeah, especially for you when you're a couple hours away from home.
Yeah, about 4.5. Yeah, one way.
Yeah, so I guess maybe hop into what your reasons are if you had some different ones than TJ.
I mean, it's funny if you were to ask me that 10 years ago, like if there's any interest in ice camping, I would have been like, nope, I'd rather go back to a cabin, go back to a shack, get a hot shower, get a hot meal. I had a cousin from Alberta who would drive up to Saskatchewan, and they would stay in a pop-up shack with a wood stove kind of before I ever heard of anyone doing it, like staying out on the ice and fishing. And I thought he was nuts. I was like, Sean, like that doesn't interest me. You're crazy. Why are you out on Keeley Lake when it's minus 25? Like there's a cabin and a lodge right there. But I mean, like TJ was saying, you get to fish through the night, capitalize on that good fishing. Some of your biggest fish come through the night, especially if you plan it around a moon phase, which is why I'm out here right now, is because of the new moon. And I don't know if anyone believes in that, but I kind of think there's something to it. And I think the species, too, goes a lot into your planning. Walleye, burbot, trout, like lake trout, stock trout. I think you can get onto some really good feeding windows through the night if you're prepared and set out, and it's fun. Like it's a challenge. It's a lot more work to get everything set up, and you might spend an hour getting your shack dialed in, but once you're here, you're here. And if you got confidence in the spot, no sense moving.
And if you don't have confidence in it and it's not going well, then you're like, well, I'm already dug in.
Well, you're stressing.
Yeah. Yeah, you can check the maps and see where you want to go in the morning if things are that bad overnight. But yeah, no, that's totally fair. Yeah, I'd say just the adventure of it all is the exciting part, and then kind of piggybacking off TJ there with you, like kind of the same. You only have so much time to do it, so if you're gonna go out there, why not take full advantage of the time? Like, what are you really missing when most people are sleeping back home anyways, or at the lodge, right? You're out on the ice and you could be getting a bite or even just having a good time, right? So I think that's kind of the big thing for me is the adventure. And I've only done it a couple times by myself, like you are right now, Jesse, but I did it on Deef a handful of years ago, and I was like, this is kind of nice. Like, it was a whole nother level of adventure when you're by yourself doing it too, and kind of just adds to the fun of fishing. And I mean, when you do get into something good and it pays off, that feeling of success is a lot higher too. Yeah. So I kind of like that, and I love just walking in and seeing like the full setup when you're done, kind of before you kick your boots off and put your sliders on, whatever. It's kind of cool walking in like, yeah, this is home for the next night or the next couple days. And I definitely
will say
like that.
There's a couple of things too I thought about as you guys were talking. Is like you said, one is the adventure. Like, just like going on a camping trip. Like, why do people go on a camping trip? You know, it's like half it's just the adventure, getting to see cool places. And two, if you're like an ice fisherman, half the reason of being an ice fisherman is like gear. You know, like we're all just gear junkies. And ice camping is a slippery slope of getting into all sorts of crazy gear. And so that's half of the fun too, is like tinkering with gear and getting cool setups and being able to, the last thing I was going to mention was there's something about like just being able to wake up, throw your slippers on or whatever you have in there and just like turn around and you're just fishing. Yeah. You're not having to get up in the cold, get your gear, drive the snowmobile. You're just like wake up and you're just like, oh yeah, this is kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And Jesse's bald, so he doesn't even know that good feeling of getting to take your toque or beanie off and getting to have that hot shower. So he doesn't miss that part.
No, that's true. Yeah. Thanks, Logan.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. And like you said, TJ, like you said, people go camping, but it's nice to kind of have a purpose. Like we were at one of the parks here in Canada, me and my girlfriend, and we were doing a hike. I'm like, I'm not just hiking just to get up there and turn around. So the one hike we did had a stock trout lake at the top. So I brought a fly rod. I was like, I'm not just going camping just to sit there. Like if I'm going camping, I'm going to be fishing or so, like some kind of end goal, right? Not just get there, sit there for a week out and then come back. That's how I kind of view some camping. But as long as there's something to do with that, then that's kind of the nice thing. So like you said, camping on the ice, you get out of bed. It's not like if you're at a lodge sometimes you're so nice and cozy, you're like, do I really want to go out in minus 30 right now? And you do, but it's like if you're just camping out there, you're like, what else am I going to do right now? May as well go fishing, and you're good to go. Good to go. Yeah, so I don't know if Jesse, you have anything else on top of that?
No, I think that's pretty good reason to why people are doing it and why we do it. That's about it right there.
For sure. And I mean, with advancements in tents too and the insulation, that's been a big thing too, right? As it's allowing people to really go out. And I mean, like we've been out on some of the coldest nights last year on Deef was like minus 35 or something like that in the morning, right? And we were still cozy inside. Like you said, TJ, get $15-20 in propane, 15 American, 30 Canadian in propane, and you're good to go, right? So can't really. You're warm inside. I mean, the sled ride back sucked. That was pretty chilly, but I mean, that's all part of the adventure too. So I guess before we get into some of the general, you had something, Jesse?
I was going to say, like, we're also talking about temporary overnight stuff. Like none of us really do a lot of like ice castle camping, or like I've never been one to, convert a 16-foot pull behind trailer and throw a wood stove in it and have like a permanent shack out. I've actually never had a permanent shack. Like it's all pop-up kind of temporary overnight setups.
Yeah, that's what we're focusing on here.
Is something we should mention. Because
the
two different animals there.
Yeah, big time. The ice castle's got the luxury, everything you need for that. So we're talking temporary. TJ, what I think is 2 videos ago, you have the flip over demonstration for camping in it, right? I think that was, and so that's an option there, and then just the pop-up style. So we'll be kind of dealing with that stuff. But before we get into some of the general stuff with the ice camping, obviously got to mention the safety first. Whether it's opening some windows, CO2 monitors, what do you guys want to touch on with that?
Yeah, I would say one of the first things that we'll talk through like some of the gear stuff too, but this is easier said than done sometimes, but have 2 of everything, like at a minimum. Have 2 of everything, plus like if you can camp with other people. Just quick random stories. So I went up with Nick Lindner up Lake Winnipeg over Christmas break, and and actually Mike Klatt. Do you know Mike Klatt? Real Life with Mike. He's a Canadian. Yep. So he was out. He came and joined us too. We did kind of like a 3-person, 3 hub house, or Nick was in the flip over, but between all 3 of us, we had heaters go down. We had snowmobiles go down. It was just like, you name it, And so we were all like helping each other out. And, if you're out there by yourself, you might've been in trouble. That first night, Nick wasn't there till late. So like my heater wasn't working. And so I had to drive back to the pickup and get my backup heater, get my backup propane tank. So that's going to be the first thing, is just have backups of like everything. And obviously then you can go down the route of, one thing I didn't before this trip, but now I just got a second one, was, a carbon monoxide detector. I know you touched on it, and I have that. It's like an orange circle one that's like super popular right now. Thing is awesome. But one thing I noticed is I was sitting in there and it's been reading 0. So I was like, perfect, whatever. But I can't remember if Nick had his over in my house or whatnot. Maybe we were like feeling like, is there like something? I was like, no, it's showing 0. So I brought mine over to his house, and his was reading like very small amounts, and mine was still at 0s. And so wasn't working. So I ended up buying the same one that Nick got. Cause I was like, well, shoot. And normally I actually kept a backup. That's just like a house one. But I guess they will only do it they only take a reading every 20 minutes or so, versus being like instantaneous, like a lot of the camping ones are. So yeah, obviously the carbon monoxide detector is huge. But just all those safety things of having the right tools, it's so hard, because when you're camping, you want to pack as light as possible. So like just having a screwdriver that can be, multi-variation, things like having lighters, backup lighters, those types of things. Having a first aid kit, I always have with. I always bring oil for my snowmobile. I'll bring like extra spark plugs, bring extra belts, because a lot of times we're like snowmobiling out there. Having all those extras, having a tow strap. We had to tow Nick's snowmobile in while we were out there. So luckily I just had a tow strap in the back of I have like a Otter Monster box on the back of my snowmobile. So I can just throw everything in there. And sometimes we've had it happen too. Like, I don't know if like it's HEET heat. It's like a fuel additive. It helps take some of the moisture out of the fuel. We've had that happen before, where you get some moisture in the line and it gets so cold that it freezes. So then your fuel line is frozen, but you can dump some of that in there and it takes some of it out. So yeah, there's just like all of those safety features, and those are now going with as far as like machines go if you're taking a snowmobile out. But having backup of everything is so huge. Having that carbon monoxide detector, going out with buddies. Those are some of my main ones, and just having the tools if you need it. Just some of the basics. You don't need to bring a full on everything, but even, just some of those basic tools that you're going to need when something goes down, because it always does. And so those are a few of my like main like safety things. I don't know what I'm curious to hear what you guys have to add.
Well, it's a good thing Jesse had a tow strap last time we were out, because he found some flood water and was stuck in that pretty good.
You decided to back into a snowdrift and got stuck too. So
that was after the winds. Well, that's because someone was parked in front of me, and I had to back up.
Okay, Logan.
Yeah. Well, what was I could have dug myself out if I needed to. Yours was a little more.
Mine was different. Mine was we hit floodwater, and I wasn't going anywhere.
Did you feel it on the drive home?
Oh, it was terrible. I had so much ice packed into my rims, but if I drove, I couldn't drive 80 to 100. Between that, it was shaking so bad I couldn't even stand it. So I had to drive like 120 or under 80. But once then, and of course I was late, so I didn't have time to wash rims or the ice out of my rims till I got to North Battleford. And then I had a smooth ride after that. But yeah.
Oh, that's fair.
The other one that I didn't mention was having one of those like jumper packs. For machines, for pickups,
for cables, right?
Or jumper cables, and if you're doing it by yourself, that one of those jumper packs period can be so helpful for many reasons. That was the other one that I always bring that I didn't forget or didn't remember.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think the important thing to bring to people is that if something goes wrong when you're ice camping, you could freeze, or you could die essentially from cold weather. It's not like summertime where, if you have a dead battery, your heater goes out, or whatever, you drop your phone down the hole. I guess there's nothing you can do there, but you're you're on the edge. Like, it's risky to be out here in these temperatures if you're not prepared and if something goes wrong.
Yeah. So I guess letting people know where you are too. Right. That's the big thing. Like for us, we're close enough. Lots of the areas that we are ice camping, there is communities nearby, whatever. But say something like you, TJ, when you're coming all the way up to Canada and you're going out for greenbacks or something on one of those big lakes, you might not know as many people, or you could end up quite a ways away, right, with how big that water is. So it's obviously, that's why you want all the doubles, because lots of people might just be thinking they've done it before. I'm taking my truck out there, pull everything out. It's kind of whatever, right? Like you don't seem too out of the realm of people, but like you said, Jesse, it takes no time for something not to go right, and all of a sudden you have no heat or you have no way to leave, and now you got to figure something out. So that's.
Now on that note too, just like communication, like the Garmin InReaches or some of those are super helpful. But a lot of our phones now are having the satellite texting, which is super nice. We went to this super backcountry lake, where you had a portage back into there. There was like, you're not going to see another person back there, one of those deals, no service. And it wasn't long after our daughter was born. And so I was like wanting to check in. So luckily I was able to, use the satellite texting. That was like one of the first weekends it was even like available for iPhones. So that is a super helpful thing too, if you don't have a Garmin InReach or just have multiple modes, because like a phone goes down the hole or something. But being able to utilize that satellite texting just to communicate when needed as well, of like, hey, I'm still alive, like we're doing okay, or send help or whatever, So if you're out there and don't have something like that, try to utilize that satellite texting too. A pretty cool feature that they're adding in on a lot of these phones.
Yeah, and make sure your InReach works before you leave. I took one on a trip to Manitoba, and it worked, but it's because my phone was still on Wi-Fi at the house we were at before we left. So then when I went to use it when we had no service, it wasn't sending anything. So I used the satellite message thing too, and whatever there. So it worked out. But now that we've scared lots of people from it, from
well, we talked about how good it was.
True.
Then we talked. We're going both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, well, hopefully Jesse can catch a fish while this is going on, so it'll prove to people that it will be worth it. But
that's right.
I guess there's tons to pack. Obviously, take your precautions. I was going to get into that a little bit, but I think we'll just go to some of the general stuff that you'll want, I guess, aside from the safety stuff now for the ice camping. Your sled's going to be full. Your truck's going to be full. Whatever you're taking is going to be full. There is a lot of stuff to take, but that's, like you said, being kind of a gearheads, lots of the fishermen, it's kind of the fun part of it too. So I guess what's some of the general stuff, like if you think about what you need just to sleep, you're going to want a cot, some form of that, right? Jesse has different kind of sleeping mats that he uses on his cot. I use like an old exercise mat, just kind of some insulation between you and the floor there, with lots of those mesh cots. I don't know if you have anything for the sleeping side of the stuff there, TJ.
Yeah, I honestly, the biggest recommendation is, and this is coming from my last trip on Winnipeg, the biggest recommendation I could say is invest into a good sleeping bag, because I've never really, I do a lot of camping in my flip over, so I don't usually have to worry about like keeping warm enough. Flip overs heat so nice. Yeah. But this last time I camped in a bigger hub house. It was a Clam X600, so a little bit bigger hub house, and it was 10 below and then like 20 below with wind chill that night, and even my heater on high was not keeping up. It was like, I shouldn't say it wasn't keeping, it was warm enough. Like if I would have had a nice sleeping bag, but I slept in sweatpants and my liner of my jacket. And so that was one of the first things I put it on my story when I got back. I was like, all right, spam me with like your sleeping bags. Like, what do you guys got? Right. And obviously you can go crazy with like super expensive ones. And so that is one sleeping thing that is huge, is being able to have some sort of good sleeping bag in case you have heater issues, or in case, when Nick was up on, he did a live stream up on Red Lake actually. And I think it was that night his heater quit working. So he just didn't have a heater going the whole time. And he just bundled up and slept in his sleeping bag to get through the night kind of thing. And, it was a little bit milder that night, but still it wasn't like 50 degrees by any means, So
yeah, for sure.
That is being able to have something. I just got a newer one, so I'm ready to test it out and see if that's gonna be better. Because the other one I had was more of like just like your generic sleeping bag for good for summer and stuff like that. And so I
I think
it's different down where you are too a little bit. Like you're still cold down there, but up here, like I think I'm rocking like a -30 or something, and Jesse's got I think a fancy one, don't you?
Yeah, it's fancy. But I think like you pay that extra money to have a good, let's say -30 Celsius sleeping bag, and then you can afford to have a little more ventilation when it comes to having your CO and your if you're running a propane heater in your shack. Well, then you can leave that window open a little bit more. You can crack your door and still be comfortable, and then have that extra security that you're gonna have a well ventilated area.
Yeah,
that's how I think of it anyway.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, and
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, as far as when you said you were bundled up there, it's probably a good decision given the sleeping bag you had. One of mine and Jesse's buddies, Adam Gamble, if he's listening, he'll probably argue that you should be wearing the least amount of clothes possible in there, because he talks about, I think it's something to do with your body warming up the bag and that keeping you warm, or he just likes less clothes. I don't know, but that's
he was probably just trying to get you to strip down, Logan.
yeah, in the grain bin there in the territories. No, I've done the same as you, TJ. I've gone kind of kept my base layer on, a hoodie on while sleeping, and toque and everything, or I've just gone into my boxers too and seeing if that makes a difference. I haven't really determined yet if it makes a difference or not, but every night's so much different. And whatever. So you'd have to do an actual test to see what the difference is there. But when we slept out on the ice a couple weeks ago, I had the window open by me, the window was open by you. I think we had the door a little bit, and then lots of the hubs now have those ventilation up top. I don't, admittedly, I don't know how the CO2 moves, if it's a sinking or rising, or if it's just kind of within all of the air in there. I don't really know how that works. I think I vaguely remember that it's kind of just all over. So I'm not too sure if you two have any idea there.
I think it sinks, if I'm mistaken.
Okay.
Is what I've heard. So like your CO detector, you want obviously head height is wherever you're sleeping is. Like that's the best recommendation, because like no matter what it's doing, it could be circulating. But I thought I've heard that it sinks. I don't know, Jesse, if you've heard similar or different.
I don't know. I know like propane is heavier than air. Like raw propane sinks, but I am not sure once it's burned and the CO emission. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's kind of obviously a thing to keep in mind there, because that's the main thing that we're worried about with all that. But yeah, I think that pretty well covers it. I bring a pillow because I like a little more luxury. Jesse brings some blow up thing, I think, and I don't know.
You better specify on that. It's a pillow. It's a pillow that blows up.
Yeah, Jesse gets lonely when he's ice capping.
Next time we'll have two different tents.
Yeah,
separate
you'll
tents.
get your own tent. And I guess when you're in a flip over, TJ, you got to be a bit more mindful, I guess, of what you're packing, or do you just pull another sled with all that stuff too, anyways?
I've done both, depending on how long I'm going to be out there. But usually I'll daisy chain like a medium, toboggan sled behind, just to, because I'm also, if I wasn't filming, like then I'd be able to pack a little lighter. But when I'm filming, then I need to bring my extra power box. I need to bring just all this extra stuff that goes along with filming. And so that is another
you hope you'll
thing
need.
too. Yes, right, exactly. So that is, I usually do have a second sled just to be safe on that, because I don't ever want to run out of juice, or I don't ever want to run out of stuff. And like I said, I always pack extras of a lot of things. So
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we'll kind of get into some of the shelters that we'll be running with that too. Like we've been doing our last couple, mine and Jesse were together, was in my Monster Lodge, my Otter. That's kind of more the rectangle shape. Obviously, you can get away with some of the more, I don't know, hexagon, pentagon shapes. I don't know the names right off the top of my head. And then for you with the flip over, what size flip over are you running, I guess, for your setups?
Yeah, so right now I'm running the Otter Lodge, and it is, so the video you're referencing is I made right above the tub, above the toboggan, I made that into a bed. So I put a platform that's on a hinge that I can remove so I can fish out of it normally too. I'm like, I want to do this I want to be efficient with everything. Like I want to spend as much time fishing as possible. I hate monkeying around with like setting stuff up. I could have a line in the water, like those kinds of things. And so I want to be as efficient as possible. So I was just like getting the gears turning. And I'm like, how can I camp in my flip over? And kind of like what we referenced earlier, if you do get set up and the fish aren't there, that's like, I'm just going to suck it up because I don't want to pack up everything and move. Like I wanted to be in that situation where like, okay, if I need to move, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And so I have the Otter Lodge. I put that platform over top that's on a hinge. And then I have like a memory foam mattress that I put on top. Super nice. I will say I am 5'10", and I wouldn't want to be much taller for the Otter Lodge. I'd say 6 foot is probably your max. If you're going to like lay down fully and stretch out, and your feet still might, touch the canvas a little bit or whatever. But I do put the Arc Lab Wingman. If you've seen those, they're like little shelves. And so they go on that, and it's just a shelf that you put on the poles, but it also like pushes the canvas out a little bit, which is helpful. So that's the one that I'm running. I know if you've seen the new Otter Resort that they have for sleeping. I don't know if you've seen that yet. Super awesome. Nick has it, and it is so cool. So it's got the full bench seat. So I think that one's 7 feet long. It's got the full bench seat, and it can fold down into a bed. It can, it's got 3 different levels. One, you can fold down in the middle for like a cup holder, that kind of thing, or you can fold all 3 of them back and have it be a bed. However, I will say you do want a sleeping pad with that because it sounds like where the hinges are, that if you're just rocking the pads that are on it, you'll dig into the hinges. So get a sleeping pad. But that is, in my opinion, I haven't got to sleep in it yet. I've been in Nick's quite a bit, but that looks like the deal because then you don't have the extra weight that I have when I'm adding, it's a wood platform, it's 1/2-inch plywood and a couple 2x4s. So it's weight, where that's a lot less weight. However, now you have the bigger resort flip over. So it's obviously bigger, heavier that way too. So I think that is a little bit of a bear sometimes, but that one is sweet. And I will say, sleeping in a flip over, even before I built that, or if you're not doing that, you can still do it in a cot and just have the cot be in the tub. I don't know if you've seen guys do that. I used to do that a lot where I put like the head of my cot in the tub, in the sled of the flip over, and then the feet going out over where you would fish technically. And then you have 1/2 of it that's still open. And so you can still fish and sleep, and, then you can put the cot away for the day if you want to. But that is another really efficient way to be able to sleep in a flip over, and just be, a little more efficient with that. And also you don't have to heat as much. The thing that this is like super small, but one of the things when I was camping in the hub on Lake Winnipeg recently, one of the things I realized I really like about when I'm sleeping and camping in my flip over is like everything's just there with arm's reach, or like
never have to get out of your chair.
When I was in the X600, I was like, oh, I need to go that. And it's like, this sounds really silly in the grand scheme of things, but like, where are my pliers? Where's this? Like, where did I set that? And you're like looking around for everything where you have limited
almost
space.
Too much space for your just one guy.
Exactly. So that is nice. So that's the one that I'm running is the Otter Lodge. And it's just big enough for me to sleep in like that. I mean, obviously with a cot, then you're just fine. But it's pretty sweet.
For sure. Our buddy Scoobs I don't know. Do you know what flip over Scoobs has, Jesse?
I believe it's the same as TJ's. It's it's not the Monster. It's the
Lodge. Yeah, the Lodge, and then the Resort is the next one up.
Right, yeah. Right. I think it's just the Lodge,
That Resort setup for sleeping is brand new this year, right?
Yep. That's one's brand new. Yeah, and I think they actually have made the lodges with the flip down bench seats as well. So the new lodges this year also have the same thing if you did want to camp out of it, and wanted a little bit smaller profile, not quite as big of a tub, that kind of thing. So I do think they have that one. I saw that one when I was in Reed's the other day. So that's another option.
Yeah, because I was thinking I'm about 5'9". I think that's probably a fair. Hey, Jesse.
Yeah, with your boots on.
Yeah, with my 2-inch boots. Yeah, no, that's I'm about that. So I have the cabin, so a bit smaller, right? Fits perfectly in the box of my truck, and I hadn't been in flip overs like at all, and I picked this up at the end of last year, and I've loved fishing out of it. It has the full bench in it as well. But when we were with Scoobs the other weekend, I couldn't believe how much bigger that next step up was. Like the amount of depth that there is from the tub, like your fishable area, it was insane how much bigger that is. So I was kind of wondering if I could fit caught, like just kind of the second way you mentioned there, just flip up the bench
Yep.
and put the cod. I was wondering about that, and then have like one hole to fish in there. But Scoobs did that. He just would move his chair and put the cod partway in the sleigh, and then out into the fishing area as well. So yeah, there's lots of different ways you can do it, and like you said, you can be a lot more mobile with that flip over setup. Like me and Jesse were probably in, like, by the time when we went from moving to fully set up, we were about an hour, and we didn't move too far away, but we were still, before we even set anything up, we both had our 2 lines out for tip ups, and then we got setting up, and we didn't miss anything at all, unfortunately. So
but we were ready, but boy, were we ready.
But we had fun.
Right.
So
yeah.
No, that's good there. That kind of covers some of it. I've seen, actually, I believe it was Otter. They've got like a new, it's like the double hexagon shape. It's like if you combine 2 of the larger pop-ups. So not like your typical rectangle shape. It's like the honeycomb shaped ones. I don't know what it was called. I should probably look it up.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
I was just watching it today on Instagram. It's kind of one of the drone views, and they go through all their different hubs, and or maybe it was clam. I can't remember which one it was, but insanely large. And I don't know how it sets up or how it breaks down. And he did say you'd want at least 2 people for it, but I could only imagine how big and comfy that setup would be to have sleeping quarters and a fishing quarters, basically. So lots of options that way.
One thing I forgot to mention with that Otter Resort flip over, so they have another option. So you know how you can put it, partway, like if you're doing it with a cot, you can put it partway in the tub and partway in like your fishing area. They have an add-on where you can lay those bench seats down, but then they have an add-on where you can slide like a foot, so you can actually have 2 people sleeping in the flip over, where so it'd be one kind of towards each side wall. And so that's really cool too, is like, so you could do it, you could still go camping with 2 people and just have your flip over, which is kind of crazy. That's if you think of it. So that was another cool add-on that they thought of, is to like, it's like, I think it's just like 2 foot, it's like a cot, but just like a quarter of it or a third of it that slides into wherever the head is. So yeah, that's another cool option.
Very neat. Oh,
did we lose him there?
I think we might have.
The other thing I was going to mention, we can talk about this while he's working on getting back on too. I don't know, he might end up clipping it, but
no worries.
I don't know what you guys do, but obviously having some sort of flooring is huge.
Big time.
The foam tiles, or like guys will make insulated wood ones, or that's a lot more cumbersome. They're super nice once they're out there, but just a little bigger, heavier. But having some sort of foam is so
I think
nice.
It's a must.
The foam tiles.
It's a must.
Yeah, I would say for sure.
What, are you a 1/2 inch guy, or are you 3/4 inch? Have you
I've
played
gone
with
back
it?
and forth on that.
I just
Logan
came
is
back. I
laughing.
just lost connection. And that's the
I
first
was like,
thing.
what are you guys talking about? No, I've gone back and forth, because it's like so nice to have the thicker ones, because then it's so much warmer. But then when you're packing it up, like that's a whole, it doubles it or whatever, how much.
A
so
1/4 inch if you
I've
got
typically-
15 mats.
Yeah, so I a lot of times do the 1/2 inch. And actually I made it was in one of my videos recently, or actually last winter. I made a setup for my flip over shack that I use those and like cut the ends off, and I use like Flex Seal tape to combine them. So it's just like an accordion, it just folds in. And then it can sit right on top, and I have my holes already like pre-cut on the foam. It is like the slickest thing ever. So I can literally like get to my spot, I unfold it, my floor is already set up, I don't have to put the puzzle pieces together. It's just like already there, folded up. I pre-drill my holes, move it, drill my holes down the rest of the way, put it back on, and I'm ready to rock. And actually, I do the same thing. I use that same base. It's like 3x3 on those foam tiles. And I use the same base for, even for like when I use it in the hub, I use that as like my main one. And then I add folding ones, or I add some extras to the ends just to like alleviate a little bit of that process of like putting those puzzle pieces together.
I like that.
And I don't know how like some company hasn't come up with some sort of folding floor like that.
Right.
Because I'm like, it's so much nicer to just, otherwise I wouldn't use it very often.
So do you when you're putting them accordion, you have like one tape on the top side and then your next set of tiles is on the bottom side, right? So it would fold and then, yeah, right? Because it has to like zigzag.
It's hard to explain, but yeah, so basically I have my middle ones and that has the holes cut out in it. And then I have one that folds underneath because they're in like rows of 3, you know, width-wise. And then so it like folds on top and then the other one folds underneath.
Yeah.
And the really nice part is that sits and fits right on top of my, when I'm towing it, I just set it right on top and it just helps hold everything in too.
Sweet.
You know, stuff's not going to be bouncing around. So you put that on, it's just like another little cover on top of it. So it is like, that's one of my favorite like little mods that I've done. And I made a video on it last year, I think. And obviously that video has done really well because I think a lot of people were in the same boat as me. I was like, floor is a must, especially if you're ice camping, but man, they're just a bugger to just piece all the puzzle pieces together. And like, so that's been definitely, I don't want to throw around the word game changer because that can get thrown around a lot, but that has been such a nice deal for me the last few years.
I would say.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'm going to have to listen back because I missed that whole part there with my internet connection. I figured out what you're talking about with 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch as far as...
We were just saying how it's a must for having some sort of foam floor. And then I was telling him, I don't know if you saw the video where I made that foam floor.
Yeah.
So I can have that. So we're just saying how much more efficient that is.
Right.
Being able to have that. Because definitely a foam floor, you need to have some sort of flooring if you're going to be ice camping. I know the guys that don't. And hey, more power to you, but I am definitely gonna have a floor when I go. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. So I'm guessing, did you guys just cover the floor area or foam floor for that? Okay. Yep. So I'm just thinking about some of the other things, like some lights. I picked up a light fan combo, which I used for the first time with Jesse. I've had some kind of lantern. I have about, I don't know, probably a couple 100 feet of Dacron tip-up line bundled up in my bibs that have been there for about 2 years. I just cut a little bit of that to tie it to the roof and whatnot. I knew I kept it in my pocket for some reason, and that's what I ended up using it for, or for the tips for my jaw jackers, which you guys, is this the first year you guys can use jaw jackers?
Yeah.
So you're getting that figured out too?
Well, actually, I still have yet to use them here. I used jaw jackers for the very first time when me and Nick did that early ice trip up to Wknd, and we were targeting big rainbows through the ice. So that was my first time I've actually ever used jaw jackers, period, or any automatic hook setting device. So
so those are definitely something that I would include in. Definitely a good idea to have. The sound will set you off, or if you throw some bells on there too, that'll wake you up through the night. But yeah, some kind of lights, some fan. The fan I found made a big difference compared to other ice camping trips I've done. Just pushing that hot air down was huge for keeping us warm and just kind of circulating some movement. And it just so happened that the end that the fan and light was also where we were pulling in some of the colder air too, just to have some new air coming in as well. So that's always a nice thing. I know lots of the flipovers have the kind of the light, I don't know what you call it, LED light strip that goes along there. So that's obviously something that lots of people already have in some of their shelters. But if you're getting the pop-up style, I know that's a big thing because it can become long nights, right? These are your shortest days of the year is through the winter. So if you don't have much for a light source other than your glowing heater, there's can make for some long nights. It's just kind of a nice thing to have those lights and even for glowing some of your hooks up and whatnot if you're going for burb and everything. So that's kind of
that little homey touch, that little sense of comfort having good lighting in your shack.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and like when I'm filming too, like obviously I need to have good lighting.
Right.
If, nobody's gonna watch a video of me sitting in the dark and you see my face glowing from the heater, and so that is something. I have the Clam Aurora lights. Then they're super bright. I do think they suck a good amount of juice because I was camping on Lake Winnipeg for 3 nights, and I have it's an ice hole power box, and it's got 2 20 amp hour amped outdoors lithium batteries in it, so it's like got a good amount of juice. And that was pretty much. I would charge my phone with it, I guess, but pretty much only running my lights. And I had 2 strips of the lights because I was in my bigger hub house. And by the end of those 3 nights, it used all 40 amp hours of those batteries.
Oh, wow.
So those things must suck some juice. Maybe I didn't have it charged up all the way, but I'm pretty sure I charged it up completely before. But yeah, so that was kind of crazy of like, wow, those things, but they're super bright and they can change like your temperature and change how bright they are. And, I did have 2 sets running too.
Right.
And so lights are, the other thing is there's one fan. I mean, there's a lot of them out there like that, but the fan that I just got recently, it's one of those ones that has like the square bottom where the battery is, and then it kind of rotates. It has been so nice simply because with my old fan, it was a smaller one, and I'd have to like keep it plugged in if I'm going to camp for more than like one night and to keep the battery. But like this thing, I just use it, like I said, when I was up on Lake Winnipeg, and I had it on like, it's on up to 4, like 1, 2, 3, 4 is the settings for power. And I had it on 2 throughout the whole trip. And then the last night I had it on the highest power setting for the whole night just to like see. And I only got down to 3 out of the 4 batteries. Like I was still 3/4
Nice.
full of the battery. And I was like, this is awesome. Like if I can just charge this before the trip and never have to worry about plugging it in, and I can run it on any setting that I want.
Absolutely.
So that one has been super nice too. I haven't posted that video yet, but that video will be coming out here soon.
Cool.
And so that one, all those little things like that are make a big difference in the grand scheme of things when you're looking at it as a whole, all those little gear things or whatnot.
For sure. Well, because you're roughing it in a sense. I mean, some of the ice camping setups we were talking about, you see on Instagram, it's like, these guys bring a whole moving van out here for everything they have. Like there's some nice setups, but I mean, just some of those little things. It's the lights are nice. Having some of that air movement's nice. Just some little things to make it that much more enjoyable. But there's going to probably be some glaring things that we've somehow skipped over because it's just kind of second nature out there. I guess one. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
There is one thing that that's kind of a sneaky one that a lot of people might bring, but those like milk crates. One, because you can put gear in it. So like I love using my flip over because then I can separate my gear and it doesn't get bounced around as much. But 2, then when I can take them out and now I can flip them upside down and I'll put my live scope on one and I'll put my heater on another. So my heater's up off the ground. You're not getting as much of the melting going on. Those are that's like a little thing that it is a multi-purpose to like help pack stuff up and organize, but then you can also flip it over and you can use it for like a little table or just to get stuff up off the bottom, which is a huge thing.
Yeah. Keeping your heater. We used mine that the propane sits in, so it doesn't roll around the back of my truck. That was used to keep the heater up, and obviously people have kept heaters close enough to the ice before where you've got a lake inside there too. So that definitely makes a big difference there. And then I was going to mention, even if you think you don't need to, tie down your shelter if you have that ability. Like last trip, me and Jesse, I'd be a prime example. We maybe thought we wouldn't have needed it, and the wind was like at least twice as much what it was supposed to be. Yeah. And definitely when I woke up after it was like an hour of sleeping, I woke up at like midnight or something. I was like, I am very happy that this is tied down because I didn't want to go out and do it at that point.
Yeah.
I had to, and 2, we wouldn't have had a shelter at that point. It would have been rolling down the lake. So that's a big thing. And
it was so windy. I was worried that my shack, my little Eskimo 949, it was just like folded down, not put in a bag, like just kind of collapsed, and it was in the box of my truck. I was worried it was going to blow out of the box of my truck and be gone in the morning. Like it was so bad.
Yeah, that's blowing.
Yeah, it was not ideal. The only place we didn't put them in, and I mean we could have, but we didn't, was literally the downwind side that we, according to the weather network or windy, whatever, was not supposed to change direction. So that was like the only corner we didn't put one. But every ice anchor spot got one, and then also coming off the middle of those pop-outs all got one there, and definitely happy we had it there for that evening. I don't think the skirt frozen in would have saved us very long there, or Jesse would have got woken up to one of the things smacking him in the head when it pops back inside, because that wouldn't feel good either. Or you knock a live scope over or whatever, right? Like so much can go wrong there. So
that brings up another little thing to bring too, is a drill. Like you can put them in by hand, it's not a big deal. Yeah. But having a drill with a little adapter to just zip those things in, it can cut down. If you're putting all of them in, for sure, like it cuts down your time setting those things up significantly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, that's.
Do you anchor down your flip over, TJ, in any way?
I don't. And so I was telling you guys before we started recording, but me and Nick and Brett went on a trip last year where it was gusting, 50, 60 miles an hour here. And Brett's house, he was sleeping in the hub, and all his straps broke, and his house went flying across the lake, and he lost a bunch of stuff. Me and Nick were in our flip overs, and we were feeling it, but I did tie off to my snowmobile just to be safe. But, the sled part of it is so heavy, and me having all my stuff sitting inside of there, I was not at any risk of like flying away. I did have my wind poles in, but I don't stake it down or anything. Like I said, I will sometimes tie it off to my snowmobile if I'm getting in some wicked stuff, just to make sure I'm not going to lose it or that kind of thing. But no, I honestly don't even usually tie it off. I'll bank it up, and there's usually enough weight in there. Usually there's enough weight in there just if I'm sitting in there. I'm not a light guy. I'm on my winter eating plan here.
Fair enough. Me too.
Yeah, well, I think Scoobs was saying he thought his flip over was going to try and go a little bit that night, right?
Yeah, like I feel like if a guy was running a tip up outside and it was real windy and you got out of your shack to go check it on a real windy day, it might do some shuffling. Especially if you're on like glare ice, like no snow cover.
I don't think it's going to blow away, but it might try and topple or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, and I will say I was feeling it kind of like lean. I had my back to the wind, so it was kind of like pushing me forward. Like it was, you could tell it was pushing pretty good. But I also have all of my gear still in my house or in the, in the sled part of it. So I don't have to, it was pretty weighed down. So that one is helpful too.
Yeah. Well, that's actually one of the first things I learned, with my flip over. We had it out on Diefenbaker, and one of my buddies I fish with, he's like 6 foot something, quite a bit taller than me. And he was sitting on the front side of the bench, and I stood up, and that thing just kind of was like a teeter-totter. It was like, okay, so now I sit on that side, and even myself, I have to watch a little bit when someone else gets up on the other side if you're sitting too much to the side. So that shows how much lighter the smaller cabins are than the lodges. So I'd maybe be worried about going for a trip there. But yeah, what else do we got here?
Go ahead.
Oh no,
go ahead.
I would just say it'd be nice to dive into a little bit on how you pick your spot for overnight camping, as in like, even if you're going in blind or if you're going into structure that you are familiar with, are you kind of picking, I mean, there's a lot to this question, probably depending on species and all this, but like, are you picking the deeper side of the structure, the shallow side? Like, what are some of the factors that are going to dictate where you're going to call, hey, this is where I want to be for overnight camping?
For sure. That's a big part of it, is what your plan is. If you're going to plan on being out there, like say you're going up to Lake of the Woods and you're just I'm going to sleep in it. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to run and gun. I'm not going to do anything like that.
Yeah.
Then you might want to pick a spot that you're going to get a day bite. And then if you don't get stuff through the night, whatever, because then you're just going to sleep. But a lot of times what I do is I'm going to pick spots, where there's a night bite, because then I'm going to go run and gun during the day. And so, like you said, depending on the species, depending on whatever it is, I tend to lean towards, just finding high percentage areas, whether it's saddles, whether it's inside turns, or just some of those areas that are going to be a high percentage area of those fish moving through. Because when they get hungry, they're going to eventually eat, but just being in something like that. But I tend to lead, say I'm fishing a hump, I will set my house up on the shallower part of the hump versus the deeper, because generally those fish are going to be moving up shallower to feed at night, and then they'll kind of roam up around some of those humps. I was just I just camped up on say Rainy Lake 2 years ago, and that's what I did. I did kind of run and gun during the day, fish a little bit of deeper stuff, but I set up basically on top of a deeper hump. It was still like 25 feet or something like that, but it was the top of it. And so I knew there was going to be fish roaming through. And so like I caught a 28 incher right before I set up shop. And I was like, yep, that was right at last light. There must be some fish cruising through here. And then, had like a 25 through the night and a 23 in the morning or something like that. And then the bite kind of died throughout the day. And so I will tend to lean towards the shallower side. The other thing that I will do a lot, and this might not relate to some of your guys' lakes up there, but a lot of our lakes around here, we get shallow weeds. And it's going to hold everything. You could catch, a 15-inch crappie, and then you could catch a 28-inch walleye, and then you could catch, like a, 19-inch bass. Or you can, it's a good multi-species thing, and especially after dark, it can be kind of good. So that is one thing I will do too, is I'll just set up in the weeds. either right on the weed edge or even up on top of these like shallow weedy flats, and you can just get fish roaming through of all species, and it's just kind of a fun thing. And then if you want to fish it during the day, then you can throw an underwater camera down or something like that, or you can go run and gun during the day as well. So that's typically what I do. For example, I just got back from Lake Winnipeg too, and so getting to know your body of water, like that's a lake that there are certain areas that are, I'm not going to say I'm a Lake Winnipeg expert, so I'm not going to. But from what I've gathered and from talking to the guys that we go with up there too, is like there's that shallower bite early and late, and even through the night. Now that more guys are able to rent ice houses and do that kind of stuff up on Lake Winnipeg, they're finding out that the night bite can actually be really good at times. And then sometimes we go out deeper during the day. That's what we did. We filmed a walleye cup up there last March, and that was a lot of what we were doing. We were fishing in like 6 to 8 feet of water at night, and that's where the fish were rolling through. And then they were even out in like 25 out deeper during the day. And so that's like another thing where you're shallower in those kind of low light periods. So then you can still wake up. You don't have to be up right away and like getting out the door and before light. You can get up and eat some breakfast and catch a few fish. And okay, now I'm going to go run and gun once it's a little warmer, those types of things. So those are some of the areas that I set up are just high percentage areas on structure. I like to fish structure. I don't know about you guys, but I like to, I'm a structure fisherman, whether it's humps or points, or just because it's something to hold fish versus roaming some of the flats. However, like on a lake like Winnipeg or Lake of the Woods, Red Lake down here, like those are lakes that are just more roaming. But I'm oftentimes fishing some sort of hump, some sort of reef, some sort of point, and then I'll find those kind of sweet spots on there where there's going to be a little more high percentage area.
Yeah, Jesse's probably thinking, well, I mean, he's on a spine right now. He's on the deeper part of a spine, but he's probably.
I was just going to say, we're talking to a guy here that had a 28 and a 27 here earlier. He's the one that should be telling us where we should be fishing.
Yeah.
No. I'm no expert. I am just guessing out here. But no, I think you said that perfectly. I think that's a great, that's how my brain tends to work as well. But yeah, so many different factors go into that, like what species you're after, the time of year. I assume like, for me, I'm thinking right now being the middle of January, I don't think these fish are pushing up too shallow. So I am on the deeper, that's kind of deeper edge. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not out on the flat, but I'm not out on the crest. I'm just kind of on the transition line right where the rocks kind of stop going into the mud. So that's what made me decide to go here. So
that brings up another good point though, that when talking about like high traffic areas, high percentage areas, anytime there's a transition, whether it's rock to weed, rock to sand, weed to sand, like that's just a highway. Me and Nick and Brett went to Devil's Lake 2 winters ago, and Nick was catching some fish on these rocks, and it was in like shallow water, which is Devil's Lake is its own beast there. And catching some fish, and I was just like, I can't sit still. I run around like crazy. So I'm like drilling holes everywhere. Nick's popping a few, and he's like, dude, I'm catching some fish. Like, just chill out. And I'm like, no, I'm going to find the sweet spot, So I'm like drilling out everywhere. And finally I got to a spot, and I was like, this is all sand. And Nick's on rock. So there's a transition somewhere. And so sure enough, drilled enough holes, dropped the camera down enough to like, I found just like that right on that transition. And that was definitely the best spot, is like they were just cruising that rock to sand transition. So if you can spend a little extra time doing something like that, so that's another good tip, is just get out there a little bit earlier. Don't get out there after dark and just set up and just hope for the best. Get out there a little bit earlier. For example, when I went to Lake Winnipeg, I didn't get out there as early as I wanted to, but I got out there a little bit early so I could do some nosing around. And unfortunately, I didn't find like the sweet spot, but there was enough where I could get an educated guess of like, okay, here's the spot that's gonna be holding some fish, and it produced for us. So that was good. But I would love like a full day to like run around and this is where there's a higher percentage fish, but especially finding them when they're in the low light periods. Sometimes running around during the day isn't going to be as good because they're not going to be there in those low light periods. They might be there daytime, but finding where those fish are hanging out in those low light periods, and that's where you can kind of set up shop.
Yeah, for sure. And I know when we've talked about other walleye episodes that we've done, like we've talked, I know you're a proponent for shallower fishing than lots of people think for walleye, right? Lots of people are kind of find 30 feet and fish that, whatever. But I've been kind of focusing shallower a lot more too lately. And I got to admit, every time I'm sitting, like even where me and Jesse set up last time, both of us were like, should we be on the top of this? And we were right, but big rock transition. We were literally 5 feet from where the bottom of that tabletop kind of came down, and we're like, this has got to be a good spot too. It wasn't at that time, but just like I'm always wondering, like, to me, I just imagine a fish going in shallow or munching throughout the night kind of thing, and rather than being on the edge of a break or whatever, where you're kind of more in the abyss and hoping for something to come through the night, right? And when you mentioned the weeds, as far as kind of where I'm located, for the most part, it's not the good weeds, if that makes sense. It's more like hair than like some nice leafy stuff or whatever. Like it's not really, and then they usually seem to die off anyways in the fall, from what I've seen for the most part. But yeah, I'm definitely more interested and plan to kind of adventure more into some of this shallower stuff, because the way the bite can be in the winter here in January, February, for walleye, we're speaking here. I mean, obviously it turns on a bit for Bourbet there in February, but kind of in this time of year, it's like, okay, if I'm sitting on these breaks, these 25 to 30 foot breaks, and I'm not really seeing much sun up, midday, sun down, I'm like, they got to be somewhere, right? And unless they're cruising out in 70, 80 feet, which I'm not going to find out, I'm going to go check shallow. So I think that'll be some of my next couple missions is checking that out. So yeah, that's kind of... Go ahead.
Good story to illustrate that point too. So for example, I was telling you how I went out with a buddy in his ice castle. And so there was like this big shallow flat that he was next to, and he was set up on the break line, and that was good. Those fish are cruising. A lot of times those break lines like that low light period, they'll just like roam up and down. And so they were catching, some eaters throughout the night or throughout the low light periods, afternoon into the evening. And then this is another tactic that you can use as long as you have the setup or it's warm enough. But then they set up tip-ups up like on top of it in 5 to 7 feet of water or something like that. And it wasn't until after dark. Now they think they caught like 2 during the night, but it was like a 27 and a 25, where they were catching 16, 18 inches out on the break line. But those big fish were roaming up shallow in the evening. So that's another thing you can do is like you can still set up camp and catch that evening bite. But then, they have a lot of different systems to give you alerts if your tip up goes up or something like that. And, it might not be the best once you're sleeping, but if you're like hanging out in the evenings and you want to like throw a tip up to have a chance at a big one, that can be another great option. Just give you a little bit different area, instead of just like, hey, here's my one spot. And then you can just try something a little different, get in some fish that you might not get to otherwise.
Right. And you're, I guess, transitioning to Bourbet, since we're both wearing them on our heads right now. Are these kind of similar areas, or you got a little bit different idea where you're setting up if you're doing an overnighter for Bourbet? Yeah,
that's I would say a lot of our lakes that I fish around here, they're probably similar, but I think they fish a little different. And I haven't fished a lot of the lakes up there. When I was actually up at Wknd 6 years ago or so, a lot of what we were doing was Bourbet. And so it was a lot of like reef fishing, that kind of stuff, where a lot of the lakes that we're fishing here, you're just finding a very steep break. And so this was really cool. I actually got to, maybe we talked about this, I can't remember on the last time I was on, I actually got to talk with a guy that is in the DNR doing the fisheries, and he was doing some research on Bourbet and like just trying to find their movement patterns. And this is really interesting is during the vast majority of the winter, they are relatively just like stationary, they're not moving a ton. And as it gets closer to that spawn, they just start putting on the miles. And a lot of times it's these steep breaks. So as it got later and later, closer to the spawn, you could see these shorelines, these steep breaks, just like light up of like, this is where these fish were traveling. And so, I hear the story a lot of times of people that get on these crazy bites close to the spawn. And it's like, oh yeah, I was on like the Bourbet ball. You see those videos where they're up, balled up. And I think more often than not, if you're on a good bite like that, you're not on that Bourbet ball necessarily, because, when they're doing that, sometimes they're not worried about feeding at that moment,
They got other stuff going on.
Right. They got other stuff going on. So a lot of times these fish are just putting on the miles and they're just cruising on these break lines. And so that's why I think those steep breaks can be so effective. It's just like a highway. But then the tricky thing is just finding the right depth that they're doing, that they're traveling. And so a lot of times for me, as it goes on, I honestly don't fish a lot of Bourbet this time of year, just because I'm chasing everything else, and mostly walleyes, and then I'll chase Bourbet once it gets to be February into March, as it gets closer to the spawn too, and those types of things. And so what I'm looking for then is just those really steep breaks. There's some rock, some rubbly type stuff, something that's adjacent to some deep water. Because the nice thing about Bourbet is they can bite good through the night. So it's like a great, well, if you like to sleep, maybe it's not a great thing to ice camp for, but it could be a great opportunity to get out there like after work and just go out and catch some fish, camp out through the night or do whatever, So that's a big one for me, is just finding those steep breaks with maybe some rocky, rubbly stuff adjacent to some deeper water is kind of the go-to for around here. I don't know how it is for you guys around there, but that's typically where I would set up for an after dark bite. And during the closer to spawn, the day bite gets going too, like as we talked about with some of the underwater footage that I was getting the last couple of years.
Yeah. We've had some burb episodes or episodes that include something about Bourbet quite a few times throughout kind of the history of the pod here. And I mean, some people said they don't fish them any deeper than 15 feet, and where I've found lots of mines 15 to 30 on some of these breaks. But I mean, once you know where they are, then that's kind of when the fun begins. It's like kind of finding them can be the difficult part sometimes, but once you do, they definitely are liking that area for some reason, and then it's a good time. And I mean, this time of year for us, they're kind of a fun bycatch when you are walleye fishing, and especially when the walleye aren't cooperating. When a bird comes by, it usually is going to eat. For the most part, it's pretty rare, or it'll try to. Lots of times we'll miss it, but no, I think it's kind of similar for us. Lots of the Bourbet fishing that I've done is they're kind of like, if you think of these breaks as steps. Like I see these fish coming from deep sometimes. Other times they are coming from the shallow side, but these are like sandy steps, and maybe in like 15, 20 foot increments, kind of going down. And so it is a break, but I kind of set up on the tabletop of those steps, if that makes sense, going down. But yeah, like I've set up out at Diefenbaker. I've been in 3 feet and caught Bourbet during the day. I think we had one come by last time we were camping out there. Like me and Jesse, we were in 5 feet of water is what we set up in.
Yeah, maybe. I think it was about 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had some Bourbet come by
the flat before the steep break.
Yeah, because the breaks that you got at Diefenbaker, like that break was 5 feet to 35, like
instantly.
It was, yeah, so
Crazy.
It's
we were
probably
on the top
for like
there.
every foot on like horizontally, it probably drops a foot vertically.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was kind of tougher there. We were once again stuck there because of 70k winds that we didn't want to fight to where we wanted to fish. So, but yeah. kind of those areas. And like you said, once the burb get going, it seems like you can be anywhere for depth with that area that they are. But yeah, I mean, some rubbly area. Some of the areas I fish, I put the camera down, and yeah, there's been sturgeon around there too. But there's big rocks and sunken trees and all this stuff. They're all mixed in with that, so kind of all over the place. But yeah, definitely those breaks. And I think it was when we had Chris Summers on, who does research in the province here. I think it was him saying like not a ton is known about them compared to other fish species, but the way that their spawn goes and what fish you're actually catching might not even be ones that are actually spawning that year, whether they're protecting the spawning grounds, stuff like that, or whatever. And so it's kind of difficult to know and kind of pinpoint what exactly or why. I like to know the why sometimes. With the Bourbet, the why might not be known as much, but they are a lot more forgiving. So as far as where you can set up, I mean, I've gotten lucky, and I've also had some nights where it looks the exact same as other structure I fished, and there's nothing too. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Jesse.
No, I think
or you're just not a Bourbet.
That's pretty good.
Maybe.
I love Bourbet. Come on.
Yeah.
This will be an interesting deal. This is a little side tangent, but I think you'll find this interesting. I can't remember if we talked about it. I was out, I think, 2 years ago in the fall, just chasing walleye, smallies, that kind of stuff. On a lake that also had Bourbet. And I was driving from hump to hump, but I just had my scope down. And I was like, oh, there's a suspended fish. So I threw a jig and minnow at it. I was thinking it was going to be a walleye. There was 2 fish. Sure enough, wham, burb, open water burb suspended over 80 feet of water. So then I was like, okay, this is interesting. Went a little further. 2 more. Like, no way. Threw another one. Wham, another burb. It's like, what? I was like, okay, I got to try. So I went this was over a course of like 10 minutes. All of a sudden there was 2 more, and they were all in pairs. And 2 more. Threw a jig and minnow. Wham. I didn't get that one landed, but I could almost guarantee it was a burb. And I was like, what? And by that time I had a buddy that was coming. He was going to come and fish some smallies with me. And I was like, okay, I found this thing. I kind of want to try it, but it's more of a risk. And I know you don't get to fish much. Like I know, so we just ended up tasting some smallies. But ever since I'm like, I got 3 fish doing that, or at least hooked into 3, and they were all in pairs, and they were all like 20, 25 feet down over, I think it was like 60 feet of water or so. So I was like, that was a really kind of interesting, cool story, because especially open water burbs, they're kind of an enigma in that respect. So I was like, I got 3 of them. So that's almost a pattern there, Like, could I have went around and scoped some fish open water? Like that would have been pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's just so strange too, because I've heard the same thing. Like I think they had a radio tracker on one of the burbs, and it didn't move for like 2 weeks. Like literally sat still, belly in the mud kind of thing. And
right, like you're talking Chris Sommers, right, Logan?
Yeah, I believe it was a Burbet on Buffalo Bound that they had tagged, and it didn't move. I mean, this might have been more in the summer, but just open water, right? It's like they aren't known to move. I mean, they obviously probably are moving more in the river systems that they're in, but for open water kind of lakes, that's different.
This was late fall. So, I mean, it could be, like getting closer to that winter time where they're starting to move around a little more. But yeah, it was still like,
but still,
like when you do something,
not
it's
what
like,
you think of when you
so
think
cool.
of a Burbet.
Yeah. And something you wouldn't have without live scope. Like that's one of the coolest things with live scope is so many eats that you wouldn't even have probably seen it in the first place. Or you would have been driving to your spot and be like, oh, whatever, there's a suspended mark 25 over 80 and it doesn't look like much, right? But that's definitely the cool part. And a burb has never really been known to turn down a meal, like I said. So, I mean, when you do find them, that's what I've always said. Like, I don't know what the limit is down where you are, TJ, but I think it's 8 here. And just, I've always said with the lack of what's known about them, and I have heard stories of how like a burbot fishery can kind of get pummeled pretty good and take a long time to get back. Like when you do find them, kind of be conscious of what you're keeping and how much you're keeping, because can be a free for all. It seems like at certain points. So kind of be mindful of that too when you are keeping, especially with the lack of what's known about them. Like I don't think they even think that they spawn every year, like each fish. So that's kind of a big thing there, right? That adds to things taking a bit longer. And I don't know how old they are. I haven't really heard much data on that, but that could be another thing too that plays into it.
Yeah, they actually just got on the game fish species. They were considered rough fish, and there was no limit on them in Minnesota for a long time, forever, until, was it last winter? I can't remember exactly. It was within the last year or two. They were finally recognized as a game fish and got a limit put on them and that kind of stuff. So I can't remember exactly where. I remember answering a survey. They were doing a survey of like, where would you feel? What should the limits be? Like that kind of thing. So I honestly haven't even looked back and see where that ended up, what they ended up doing for like seasons and limits and all that kind of stuff. So kind of a good progression for that, because I grew up on Lake of the Woods where, there's the typical thing of everyone's going for walleyes, and you think you have a 10-pound walleye on it, it's a burbot, and everyone gets mad, and now they're throwing them out on the ice. So like growing up, I was just driving Lake of the Woods, and there'd be just burbot sitting out on the ice all over the place. It's like, oh, this is so frustrating.
Yeah, that
same
apparently
around here.
Yeah, my home lake apparently used to have lots of burb, and I've ice fished that with a camera for many years, and then just obviously spending more time with the sonars now, and I've caught one burbot, and apparently it used to be very common. So I don't. It can definitely ruin things. So take care of the burb. They are good eats. Keep one maybe for the table, but
this isn't the first time we've said take care of the burbot, and it won't be the last time on this podcast.
Respect the burb.
That's right.
No, for sure. The Mariah, the lawyer, but I think we've kept you for quite a while here. Like you said, you got a 1-year-old at home there, so we're getting later into the evening here. We're going to talk about this a little bit more, but let's just go one, not necessary, but like nice, I don't know if you want to say fancy thing to have when you're out on the ice. That isn't necessary at all, but if you want to kind of go fancy with things, what are you bringing?
That's a good question. I don't get super fancy with things. Well, I shouldn't say that. I get fancy with things, but it's always my filming gear, my camera gear. So like there's that stuff that's a little bit unnecessary. So I will say one. Screen. No, I'm not very. I'm fishing. So I will say I don't think I've really brought anything super fancy. I will say the one thing I have thought about bringing, and this isn't probably, everyone's gonna be like, that's not really that fancy, but I thought about like I have just like a mobile Blackstone, just to like cook some better meals and do stuff like that. Like it's a smaller, smaller one. So I thought about bringing that. And then I'll say one that I saw that was like wicked, is a dude brought a projector out there,
Oh.
and so he had like a little screen that he sets up and had like the projector
Nice.
out there. So it was like a full on, like, I don't know, floor to ceiling movie they were watching. And I'm like, all right, that's pretty crazy. So I don't know. I don't get too fancy with some of my camping stuff. My stuff is all just practical, of like my tables, my lights, my shelves, my fishing stuff.
Efficiency driven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very practical, very efficient.
I would like to touch on, since you brought up the black stone and like cooking and eating, let's just quickly touch on, if you were to plan, let's say, a 3-day, 2-night overnight trip on the ice, what is a meal plan for you looking like? Are you keeping it basic, doing like noodle cups and wraps and stuff, and or does weather play into a factor because you don't want stuff to freeze? Like, just kind of run us through your meal plan for you.
Great question, for sure, because that is kind of a big hang up for people. Is like, what the heck do I even eat out there? Like, I don't want to eat PB&Js the whole weekend,
And it's hard because like people don't realize that you can bring a case of bubblies, but if they're not in your shack at all times, they're gonna freeze outside, and you're not gonna have any bubblies left, or your water.
What did you bring on our stock trout trip? A jambalaya or something?
Oh pre-made
Jambalaya,
spicy
just
deer
reheat.
sausage jambalaya. It was awesome.
Yeah, so that's a lot of what I do, is I will pre-make stuff. So some of my like go-tos that are just easy, because I'm also in the stage of life where I'm still teaching. We have a 1-year-old. I'm trying to crank out videos left and right. I'm up till 1 o'clock every night editing. So I like have no capacity to just like do extra stuff and cook food. So some of honestly the easiest ones for me is I will get like burgers, either patio myself, and just cook them in a pan. Then I'll get brats, and then I'll buy like a mac salad or something like that and I just have all of that. So then I like to be efficient with my meals too, where I'll sometimes just get like only hamburger buns, and I will cut them in half, and I'll use them as like hot dog buns too, so I don't have to have more stuff. So like some of those meals that'll complement each other is like hot dogs and hamburgers, or brats and hamburgers with like a mac salad. That's an awesome one. Obviously you can do fish as well. That is something I'll do a decent amount, but then you're dealing with oil and doing some of those things that's maybe not quite as efficient. I'll make a lot of pre-made soup and chili, where I can just literally pour it in my pan, heat those up. The one that I'm wanting to do more is do stuff like that and just vacuum seal them, so you can do a boil bag. So then you don't have to clean it up, so then you can really just throw it in, get a pot of water, boil it, and you cut it open, pour it out, and it is just good to go. You don't do any cleanup. You could eat it out of the bag. It's just, so I don't do a lot of like the MREs or like some of those, dehydrated meals or whatever. I don't do a lot of those, partially because I don't know, I want to eat. Like if I'm out there camping, like I want to eat good,
Yeah.
And so I'll do a lot of those types of things. That's my go-to: soups, chilies, things that I can reheat really easily, burgers, brats, fish, if I'm feeling a little more spicy. Although one that I'm really looking forward to, I don't know how much you follow some of the Lake Winnipeg stuff, but there's what is it called? The smoke
thing?
Yeah. So he's got those boil bags where it's like burnt ends, mac and cheese, pulled pork, like all these different like smoked meats, and he has them in the boil bags. And so when I went up to Winnipeg last time, I came back and I bought like 7 packages of like the burnt ends and the mac and cheese. So I'm going to do that a lot. Is just to have those, because then it's like such good food. When we were up at Wekusko, actually, me and Nick, Clayton was up there too, and I had never had them before, but he gave us a couple, and so we had one for a meal that night. I don't know if it's because we just slept or drove through the night and we're just starving, but those burnt ends were so good. So that's one that I'll do a lot. Or when I want to do more is just even vacuum seal some of those, so you don't have to have a lot of cleanup, because then you have to bring soap and paper towels and just all those things that you're going to need to pack. So the easiest and most efficient, but I know a lot of guys do the MREs or the cup of noodles or like some of those, and those are like super easy and supposedly pretty good. I honestly haven't had one. Nick just had some on our Lake Winnipeg trip. He really likes them. So I don't know what you guys do, if you guys like some of those, but I do a lot of pre-made stuff. Oh, the thing that I do pre-make is I will pre-make breakfast burritos. I'll cook up some bacon, cook up some sausage, cheese, and whatever else you want to put in it, and I'll wrap them in tin foil, because there's something about just like, you can even just set that on top of the buddy heater and just like warm it up. And then you can have like a nice, good meal instead of just eating a granola bar in the breakfast or
Yeah,
for
for
breakfast.
sure.
Having a nice, good meal like that that's got meat in it, and that has been one of my all-time go-tos is making those up. That is one thing I will take the time to pre-make is
Nice.
is some of those, and yeah, that one's real good. So that's a little caveat for some of those meals.
Yeah,
I like
I don't go too crazy. Actually, lots of times if I'm going out for a day, I just don't eat, and then I feel cooked at the end of the day. So I don't suggest that. Yeah, but yeah, going out camping, like when we went out last time, I pre-cooked some chicken thighs and had those cut up to make wraps. As far as breakfast goes, I think I did yogurt, something like that. It all kind of depends on just how much I actually prepared the night before or the day before for going out. But I will say, like, I've done like just strictly say smokies before. Like you said, it's easy. I had that for lunch and supper. You kind of get tired of those eventually, and maybe don't feel the greatest. And you want to, like, you're out there, you're spending the time to be out there. You want to feel good, right? And be like, you don't want to be sitting there like, oh, I really don't feel like doing much. Like, I don't feel great, kind of thing. So good food does help. One of the trips I did a couple of years ago, I took my little cousin with me, and I brought smokies. He brought a lunchbox of A&W and A&W root beer and Oreos is all he brought. So we had smokies in that, and yeah, I didn't feel great at the end of that. I had some muffins too, but like nothing, like no veggies, nothing like that, right? Or anything that's maybe slightly good for you. So kind of, yeah, I'm kind of open to whatever for the camping. PB&J is easy for quick meals, and I have done like oatmeals and stuff. And like you said, with warming something up in a vacuum seal bag, I haven't done that yet. I vacuum seal a ton of stuff and haven't taken it out there, but there's nothing worse than trying to clean a frying pan when it's cold out, right? Like it doesn't really, like you may as well just paper towel it out and call it good, right?
Right.
Like you're not actually
anything for
getting
next
that
time.
clean. Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, that doesn't bother me. I wouldn't care if I go and cook on that the next day. I have brought a Coleman griddle before and made breakfast on that, and that was great. But the one thing with cooking, I replied to your story there a couple days ago. You were talking about cooking the fish in one of the huts, and I was like, it is nice doing it in there, but it definitely, you smell it for the next couple times, even if you're airing it out. So that is one thing to consider. Well, your tent's gonna smell like that. It's either it's gonna smell like fish because you caught a bunch of fish, and your sleeping bag, everything, right? So yeah, that is one thing to consider. But I don't know if Jesse has anything different there.
No, I mean, growing up, I think it was like my dad always had a shore lunch kit ready to go, whether it was wintertime or summertime. It was like, we got to have a Coleman stove and a cast iron pan and a pot, and we'd cook fish or cook burgers or whatever, bacon, eggs, like the whole shebang. So a lot of that has carried on with me, and the trips I can do that when the weather's nice, and like if I'm just tip up fishing for pike and I can afford to, put the tailgate down on the truck and have a nice hot meal, cook outside on the Coleman stove, that's what I love to do. But on a trip like I'm on now, it's cold, it's minus 20 or 22 out right now, and I just couldn't be bothered to cook really, so I just brought wraps and noodle cups and a jet boil and coffee and keeping it simple. But yeah, kind of just
another one that I do that's not glamorous, but it's super nice. I'll like cook a frozen pizza before I leave and just have like,
That's good.
8 slices of frozen pizza, because like that is just so easy. Like I can be out running and gunning, and I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of getting hungry, and I'm usually like, I'll roll pretty good and I won't even think about eating. But then there's times where I'm like, ooh, I'm getting hungry, and I can shove down a slice of pizza. I don't have to do anything. It takes 2 seconds. And or like you go out, if you're gonna go out and grab a bite to eat at a restaurant or something, you go order a pizza so you can have a few slices for the next day. That's
for sure.
That's another one that's a sneaky. It's not glamorous, but it's efficient.
Gets the job done.
Yeah.
Well, depending on the pizza company you get,
sets in.
Yeah. That might be when they don't feel great. And depending on whatever pizza place you get, sometimes the leftovers just as good as when it's warm. So
for sure.
Yeah, can't complain about cold pizza. But no, I think we got an hour and a half in here. That flew by pretty quick. An hour and a half where Jesse clearly hasn't caught anything. So maybe
I haven't caught. I thought it was gonna happen about a half hour ago. I had something come looking at my minnow, and I leaned over here once, and I was like lifting it up on my jacker, and he came vertical on it, but he never grabbed it. Buggered off.
Well, you're gonna catch one probably as soon as we end this call here. But
here, let me check the firehouse one more time.
Oh, that's what you're doing when you're standing up.
Yeah. No fire
No lights.
action out there.
No lights. No. Oh, that's good. Well, TJ, we appreciate you coming on, taking some time in your evening here. Hopefully you've got some sort of camping trips coming up here. As we're kind of in the dead of winter, even though it's been kind of nice here, getting colder now for the next couple of weeks. But no, we really appreciate it. Anyone who wants to learn anything with whether it's walleye fishing in general, like we mentioned, TJ's got tons of great stuff for that on his YouTube. Definitely the teacher coming out in you in lots of those YouTube videos, right? So they're always a good watch there. But I think we'll wrap things up here. We did have a couple more things we could talk about, but like I said, we're an hour and a half in here, so definitely appreciate you taking the time. Jesse, hopefully you catch something. And good luck next time you get out on the ice.
Bet, appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, TJ. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah.
I just
nice
forgot.
catching up.
You may as well plug away for your socials and everything, just so people know exactly where to find you too.
Oh, yeah. So basically everything is under TJ Erickson. I had it as TJ's guide service because, like I said, I started it for my guide service, but everything now is just under TJ Erickson. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all under TJ Erickson. I think maybe Instagram's TJ Erickson Fishing or something, but otherwise that's where everything's at. I am on TikTok, but I don't ever post on there. I started that. I was like, I should do this. No, so you won't find me on there much.
Too many students on there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, TJ. You take care.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
First episode 2026 in the books, episode 108, all things ice camping. I hope everyone enjoyed that one as much as we enjoyed recording it. That's a topic that me and Jesse quite enjoy, and obviously TJ does too. We had Jesse had 3 points here to kind of add that he thought maybe we not skipped over, but could add some more meat and potatoes too. So we were going to get into that, and then we'll be ending it with Jesse's trip, how it went, and maybe a little bit of a conditions update for Last Mountain. So what's your 3 points here?
We touched on it briefly when we were talking about it, just about the importance of having bells or some kind of alarm system on your rods if you're leaving rods in throughout the night. Your set lines. I would highly encourage people, like, you got to have bells and lights or whistles, whatever you can manage, because the last thing you want to do, like, in the moment, it might seem like a good idea to like leave some lines in even outside and wake up in the morning and go check them. But like, if you've got a dead bait out, that fish is just going to be gut hooked, and all your tip up line will be spooled out, and the fish probably still be on there, and you're going to have to cut your line, and the chances of that fish surviving aren't as good as they should be. So I would really make sure you have your lines in your shack, use bells, make sure you're going to wake up through the night if you are leaving lines in the water, just to take care of the fish, right? We don't need anybody out there killing fish. And then the preparedness, we talked about, like, bring 2 of everything, always have some sort of tools, basic tools. I can tell you from my trip just 2 nights ago here, it's a good thing I had my Leatherman, because I went to go fire up my jet boil, which I haven't took out of the bag yet since like last winter. It's just, I brought it with Logan and I 2 weeks ago, but I never did use it.
Yeah, it didn't make me coffee.
Didn't make us coffee.
Yeah.
And so I go to use it to boil some water for my Ichiban noodle cups, and it had come apart. All the screws, these tiny little screws, fell out of the mechanism, and it was in like 3 pieces in my jet boil cup. So thank goodness I had my Leatherman with me, and I had this tiny little screwdriver on there that I was able to get the bolts threaded back in, or the screws back in, and I got it all back together, and I was able to boil some water. I mean, at the end of the day, was it a huge hindrance if I didn't have that? No, because I had wraps and other food that I could have eaten.
You would have survived.
I would have survived, but like, if I was banking on that jet boil to cook me food and to eat, I would have been struggling, especially if I didn't have the tools to fix it, right?
Right. Good point.
And
the third
thing is,
I don't know how I thought of this, but I forgot my pillow. We were talking about pillows and comfort on the ice out there, and you mentioned like my fancy whatever blow up pillow. Yeah. Well, I forgot it anyway. Oh. I thought it was in my sleeping bag, like my storage bag, and I must have taken it out. And so we get all wrapped up recording there, and I start getting ready for bed. I'm like, where's my frickin' pillow? I can't find it. So anyway, I just rolled up my sweater and made a nice little, as comfy as I could, and it worked. But I did not have my fancy blow up pillow.
Yeah. Well, and I've probably got like, I don't know, in different places, a couple lists of kind of things that I always want to take. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of go through that the night before, or especially once I'm about to pull out of the driveway before I leave, I try to remember to go through that. But each list is kind of different, and there's always those little things like, oh, I should bring that this time, and you forget to add it to it. But it's kind of a generic list of some of the things that you're always probably going to have anyways, right? Like, make sure to bring your rods. Well, yeah, but it seems silly to say it until you show up without rods one time or something like that, right? But
or even like a toothbrush and toothpaste. You probably only forget that once, and you'll never forget it again, especially if you're doing like a multi-day trip. I can't do that. I can't not brush my teeth.
No, it's kind of, even when you're talking about the noodle cup, like you don't need the noodle cup. Like you said, you have some other things, but sometimes just something warm is nice too, right? Just kind of a little bit of the niceties.
Yeah, and coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, that's 3 good points to have there. And I guess to kind of close things out here, what were the conditions like? What were your coordinates? What was going on?
I can be specific, I guess. I accessed
you don't have to be specific.
I accessed the lake on the northern half.
Not very specific.
On the eastern side. I don't know. Do you want me to say where I was?
No.
I can.
No, you don't need a spot burn. This place is so good.
Yeah. Oh boy, I just lit them up. But
yeah,
I only ended up staying out there. I got there Monday at like noon. Overnight. I did not catch, as you guys know, I did not catch a fish throughout the podcast, and I didn't have a bite through the night. Then the next day was pretty busy with flags. My tip-up went off. My Phyros went off 4, maybe 5 times. Okay. But every time it was either dropped or just the bait was stolen and had like 20 feet of line out. So whether it was small pike or walleye, I don't know.
That screams small pike.
Yeah, just ripping it off.
Yeah.
But overall, I ended up landing 2 pike around 6 pounds each. Got cut off or bit off by another one in the shack. I caught 4 small, like 14, 15-inch walleye, a 27-inch walleye, a 28-inch walleye, which came off a suspended Cisco on a tip-up. So utilize that second line. And a big Bourbet. I never did measure it, but it had to have been around 30 inches and like 8 pounds. It was a stud of a Bourbet. It came midday during the major, so that was cool.
Okay.
And then a 12.5-inch perch. And that was pretty much it, I think. So not terrible for like mid-January bite on Last Mountain, which can be a notoriously slow lake anyway. Through the day, though, I would just tell people to stay at home and fish the last 2 hours. Like, I really didn't have any action until 4 o'clock till 6:30, 7, and then after that, it just was a ghost town. Conditions out there, I was able to drive around 4x4 with my truck. It doesn't have a lift on it. It does have a level though, so it's whatever.
It's got medium. A heavy foot though.
It's got a heavy foot. Once you get going, don't stop. But no, I didn't have any issues. I wasn't paying attention too much driving out there, and I hit a drift. I thought I was going to get stuck, but I was able to back out. And then leaving the ice yesterday, it had started to snow, and it was starting to blow like 60K winds, but I still got off, no problem. You just avoid the bigger drifts around the shacks, and it was no issues. And I don't think they got enough snow down there to really dictate that or to change that. I think as long as you got a good clearance truck, medium clearance truck, and 4x4 and good winter tires, I think you'll be just fine. And there's no floodwater that I found. during my ice camping, the water didn't push up through the hole at all, as compared to when Logan and I were there 2 weeks ago. There was like 3 inches pushing up.
Yeah.
So the conditions have gotten much better in the last 2 weeks, and I assume it's just gonna keep going out good. And as long as you guys don't get too much snow down there, should be truck worthy for the rest of the year.
We got some snow. Woke up to snow on Tuesday, and then same this morning. Like it's like I didn't even shovel, but it's not like a heavy snow by any means. It's been pretty light and fluffy. It might have drifted around in some areas. Pretty good, but it's not like it's been like a heavy wet snow or anything like that. So I don't think it should have created too many problems.
No, yeah, like the access that I used was I could have drove on and off in 2-wheel drive. To be honest, like there was no drifting or.
Yeah, we lost a lot during the melt. That was the problem too, I think, or at least it made it all harder. So yeah. Well, no, that's
about,
good.
That's about my trip right there.
There you go.
The fish overall were very picky. They were scared of rattle baits. They were scared of anything that moved. The walleye I caught in the shack on live scope, I basically just had to let it hang there. A little scissor kick and a minnow tail.
That's kind of par for the course, that lake, it seems, this year. I mean, there's obviously still some good fish being caught, but for what it can be, it seems like it's been pretty slow. So it's not just you. Have to go for some Bourbet next or something. Yeah. Well, maybe I'll just tell the fishing gods that I'm going to fish for Bourbet. But in reality, maybe it'll just a 32-inch walleye will just happen to swim by. I should mention I did lose a big fish in the shack on last night at like 6 o'clock. No, 5 o'clock. Right as the sun was going down. Don't know what it was. Come up off bottom really quick. Slam my minnow and a jig head. Had it hooked. Had it basically all the way to the bottom of the ice, and I just went to move my live scope shuttle so I could like kneel down and start to grab it. And as I did that, I just dropped tension a little bit, and the fish popped off. And I see it on live scope, and it was just as big as that 30-inch Bourbet that I caught midday, just as big. And I never did see it, so I don't know what it was, but it was a really nice fish. I hope it was just another Bourbet, and not that big walleye that I went there for, but we'll never know. So just have to plan another trip. Yeah, no, but for sure that'll keep you coming back, and who knows what these next trips will have. But if anyone's getting out, I know we got some cold weather here, so be safe out there. Enjoy the warmth of your shack. It's looking pretty chilly coming up here, but hey, that's what ice fishing is about too, so you can still go out and have fun. So that's kind of all we got here for episode 108, the first one of 2026. Thank you very much, as always, to everyone that's been tuning in. Stay tuned for more March Madness updates as they come down the pipe here. And just to close things out, big thanks to 13 Fishing Canada, as always, for being the presenting sponsor of the show. Head over to the website, get some baits, rods, reels, maybe an auger, some clothing, whatever you want. Use the code Wknd Warriors. Save yourself 15% off, and we'll see you in the next episode.